Hey friends, it's Lori. Before today's show starts rolling, I want to make sure you know about our most popular ebook at theproducemoms.com, Science Fair and STEM Projects. This free ebook offers 15 science fair and STEM projects using fruits and vegetables. It's perfect for students, educators, and parents alike. We provide the supply list and step-by-step instructions for each project from start to finish. Of course, it's up to you and the students to find the conclusion. The Produce Moms Science Fair and STEM Projects ebook has been recognized by the National Science Teachers Association, and it is available to our podcast fans as a free download. Visit theproducemoms.com/science to claim your copy today. Welcome to the Produce Moms Podcast, where we believe there is a produce mom in all of us. I'm Lori Taylor, founder and CEO of the Produce Moms. For 10 years, I sold fresh produce to over 300 grocery stores in the U.S. And today, my team and I are fully focused on inspiring people to eat more fruits and vegetables. This show is just one of the ways that we hope to inspire you and your family to eat more produce and live a better life. If you like what you're hearing on the podcast, join our community of almost 40,000 in all 50 states and over 30 countries by visiting theproducemoms.com/subscribe. And be sure to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes. Thanks for being here. Enjoy today's show. Hey everyone, welcome back. It's another great edition of the Produce Moms Podcast. Today we have one of my dear friends as our guest, Shara Merten. She hails from the very important region of Yuma, Arizona. And more importantly, Shara, just like all of the guests that we've had on the Produce Moms podcast, Shara is truly doing work that matters the most. Shara serves her community of Yuma, Arizona, as well as the broader nation in terms of what we're doing to combat food insecurities and hunger right here in America, as her role as CEO of the Yuma Food Bank. Shara is the CEO of the Yuma Food Bank. They are part of Feeding America. And, Shara and I have been friends for about 4 years, Facebook friends, you know how important that is. But we actually had the opportunity to meet each other when I was out in Yuma. So for those of you who have been long-standing fans of the work we're doing at the Produce Moms, you more than likely remember when we went out to Yuma, Arizona, and I was the keynote speaker at the Southwest Agribusiness Conference, and which also coincides with the International Spinach Festival. We have a festival for everything in produce, but one of my best takeaways from that experience, besides seeing the incredible region of Yuma in action during the wintertime here in America, it was certainly meeting Shara and learning more about food banks and Feeding America and the great important work she's doing in Yuma to help this entire community. So Shara, welcome to today's show.
Good morning.
It's so good to have you on. It's great to reconnect with you. And I want to first, we need to just talk about, we'll start at the beginning because I don't know if people necessarily understand where Yuma is at. So tell us a little bit more about Yuma.
Regionally, we are in the southwest corner, really the corner of Arizona, the state of Arizona. We sit right on the corner of the state. You actually have to go north to go to California for where we sit, but Mexico on one side, California on the other. And that's where Yuma sits. And we also grow all the winter leafy greens in Yuma for the nation.
Yeah, it's amazing, you guys, and it is no joke. She is absolutely right when she says Yuma produces all of our wintertime vegetables and leafy greens. It is absolutely true, and it also is no joke about Yuma being so close to Mexico. I actually was telling someone this morning as I was getting prepared for this segment with you. I was like, hey, when I was in Yuma, a lot of the farms I visited, they farmed right up to the fence.
Yep. Now they do.
And then, of course, on the other side of the fence too. The farmers are do a lot of business on both sides of the border, of course. But so Yuma it's a remarkable part of our American agriculture culture, just the American agriculture community and the culture of our industry. Yuma carries a significant importance to us all, because without your region, there would be no wintertime fresh leafy greens that are grown domestically for sure. And probably we wouldn't have the supplies that, we're all used to and expect if it weren't for Yuma.
It does play an important role in the supply chain of the fresh vegetables into the nation. It's about a $3 billion economic impact just for what Yuma produces here regionally.
That's amazing. So let's talk about the work at the food bank. You guys, I've had the opportunity to actually tour the Yuma Food Bank with Shara, which was an incredible experience. And, Shara, when I came through, obviously it was during winter when the vegetables were being grown right there in your backyard. So tell all of us a little bit more about what the Yuma Food Bank is all about. Tell us about the community you're serving. And then I also, I want to learn a little bit more about what kind of role the fresh produce industry plays in your ability to serve the community.
Well, Yuma is, as I said, it's in the southwest corner of the state. Yuma County itself has over 205,000 residents, and of those, primarily the metropolitan side of it is Yuma itself and communities that surround it. So the impact of having fresh produce here seasonally is crucial, and it's a foundation of what we give out to our families that are food insecure, and they appreciate it. Incidentally, when it comes summertime, we become challenged by that, because then we're growing grains and melons, and it just becomes very concentrated as to how we have to partner, and that's where Feeding America becomes very predominant in what we're doing.
Right.
Because of the outreach that we have.
So tell us a little bit more about how that relationship works. So obviously with the Yuma Food Bank, you're able to probably source, frankly, are you able to source all that you need in the wintertime months? It sounds like your biggest need actually lies when the harvest isn't happening. Is that a true statement, or?
No, it is, and it's accurate.
Yeah.
We have little fresh produce in the summertime, and the need is greater because schools are out.
Right.
The federal feeding programs are limited, as to where families can access that. So the food bank itself becomes, we really ramp up our networking within the Association for Arizona Food Banks, because we have 4 sister food banks that we network with, even in wintertime, because of the overabundance of what we have, and the nature of a lot of the leafy greens have a very short lifespan. So what we take here, and then we will network out and offer them to our other sister food banks, so that we put as least amount as possible
goes to waste. Yeah. I mean, you want to make sure there's such a need in America for hunger relief. I mean, there
still is.
And is, I mean, yeah, it's so, it's humbling. It's sad. It makes organizations like yours so much more important than what really most of us probably realize. Are there any stats that you can share with us about hunger in America?
But really, there's 1 in 5 children in the United States that don't know where their food
next meal's coming from. Isn't that sad?
But there is, there's some happiness to this, though. I'm not one. I'm a very optimistic person. Even if the house is on fire, well, maybe it's not the whole house. Maybe we can save part of it. And I think to our food insecurity, it's the networking. It's the networking and the donors that make that what we can do. We can't do it without networking and without donors.
Right. Well, I love to hear that you network within the state of Arizona to share your abundance during the winter months. I love to hear that. And, one of our top passions at the Produce Moms is to, that zero waste lifestyle. This food is so nutrient dense, and there's so much, there is a bounty of it. How do we make sure that none is going in the trash? So love to hear that you guys are actively networking. to take that back. And then another point you just made that really made me kind of pause in my tracks was the point about how your summer times at the food banks are so critical because schools are out of session.
Right.
And a lot of our followers know how passionate we are at TPM on school meals and child nutrition programming, especially that which relates to USDA school meal programs. But this is again something that, it's that collaborative nature. I mean, tell me a little bit more about your distribution. Does the Yuma Food Bank work hand in hand with the schools during the summer months to make sure the children and the students at their schools have access to your food and products?
We pretty much do it year round. Interesting.
Yeah.
This last year, because we had, you being familiar with the agricultural side of what happens here, which is huge, kudos to you, because a lot of people think our food just comes from the grocery store.
Yeah.
You have to grow it first. And Mother Nature plays such a big part in that when the crops are in the ground, then it's up to Mother Nature to make that happen on time. When she muddies it up a little bit by changing that dynamic, it either creates a glut in the market or it goes as planned, and everything goes to market. Well, when the gluts happen, we manage that. We are the end of the supply chain for all fresh grown product. That way it doesn't go into a landfill, and we look to find places for it. And back to the school component, we reached out to the schools directly throughout the year to ask them, how much can you take? Because we could bring you pallets of fresh food, and you can distribute it out to the children to either take home with them when they've had their lunch or to incorporate it into their lunch. So the Yuma Community Food Bank is working hand in hand with our educational districts to help support that fresh into the school lunch. Mm-hmm.
That's great. And that's probably, I would imagine that is, probably a procedure that's not unique to Yuma. I would assume that probably most food banks are, embracing that same type of collaboration.
Well, it's interesting you talk about that because next week I will be at Feeding America's CEO conference. And the conversations that I think are unique to Yuma, I found out over the last couple of years, we kind of all talk about the same things. We just talk about them more uniquely to our region. And it all goes back on the same thing. What can we do better? How can we do it? And what can we do it with?
Yeah, and not the truth.
It is.
So let's talk a little bit more about the Feeding America network. How you mentioned that when you don't have that abundance in your backyard, that's when your association with Feeding America really comes into play. Tell us a little bit more about how that works, and what is the Feeding America network from a national scope?
Well, Feeding America is 200 members strong across the United States and growing. I think as other food feeding associations become more aware of what you get through Feeding America, and it's access. It's access to the other members, and it's access to corporate America. It's access to grant opportunities. The emphasis is it's all positive. Yes, there is a membership fee, but when you look at what the opportunities are for things that you may not have to have too much involvement in, especially to the grant and the corporate side, but you can have this menu of opportunities that you can reach into as it serves you to be able to explore, and perhaps it'll benefit your region.
Yeah, no, that's great. So a ton of resources available to these regional and community food banks that otherwise you probably wouldn't be able to. You probably couldn't have them on your own.
You have the conversations, which I think, like you and I are having, are really the key to it, because maybe their region does something differently to manage some of their abundance that maybe you hadn't really focused on, and it could benefit you. The other side of this too, the other part of that association is our Arizona Food Banks, because we are all part of Feeding America. So we network with one another to look at processes. Not only that, staffing, if we have training that maybe could benefit. We really do a lot to try to educate ourselves in what could be another opportunity to be able to serve.
Right. Do you know how many families you serve on an annual basis out of the Yuma Food Bank?
Yeah, it's individuals. It's roughly around 200,000 individuals.
Wow.
That we serve.
200,000 individuals out of your food bank.
Yes. Yeah.
And you have 205,000 residents.
Yes.
Wow.
Now, when you think about this, I don't have the statistics on the unduplicated. Those are individuals served. So they could, they do come more frequently, because some of the individuals that come are, Lori, it's interesting, because even though our economy has changed a little bit and there are more people back to work, you still have an element of people, like you have your veterans, you have your grandparents that are raising their grandchildren. So there's an element that are continuous users. And we're only a once a month food box. It's not like we're supplying all their needs, but we are at least giving them 3 to 4 days of the month. And in the wintertime, it comes with an abundance of fresh produce that we are glad to distribute.
Right. That's good. Yeah. So that also tells me that Arizona network that you have mentioned a few times in this conversation is even more important, knowing that, out of your facility alone, you're taking care of maybe 3 to 5 days worth of. So the network is extremely important. So how do listeners get involved with this? I mean, how do people who are listening get involved with the Yuma Food Bank as well as Feeding America? Like, what's the number one thing you need? I mean, I would assume it's probably monetary donations. We all need money, but
the other side of it is your time. Volunteers are really the foundation of the work staff that we have, and getting people to volunteer their time is really a treasure, because we're all busy. We all have very dynamic family things that pull us away from our community. But at the same time, having that community time with your family here at the food bank, I think, has a double side to it, because I think it teaches our children that there's more than just them, that the world rotates around. And we see that.
So true.
We see that with a lot of our youth. So, to answer your question, they can contact us through our website, which is yumafoodbank.org. We're also on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We're on a lot of the social media. So definitely connect with us. And we really try to respond very quickly so that we can answer your question, hopefully to either make a donation of your time or of your finances. It's all beneficial.
Yeah, that's great. I definitely believe in the power of, community stewardship and volunteering, giving of your time. I mean, your time and your knowledge, you guys, those can be the very best gifts that you can share with others. It's not always easy. Yeah, it's not always easy to give money, but sharing your time and your knowledge can, and your empathy, your love for others, which is really what the basis of volunteerism is. So, no, I love that. We'll definitely include in the show notes too, Shara, and everyone listening today, we'll include in the show notes the links to take you right to the Yuma Food Bank website, as well as to, Feeding America. I know that you guys are proud to be part of that network. And, as someone who keeps a watchful eye on food insecurities in America, I mean, Feeding America seems to be one of our nation's leading resources for providing that hunger relief.
It really is. I would say the contacts that they have, the resources that they provide for us, being able to engage with USDA commodities, we're looking differently to see how better can we utilize the USDA just from our food bank perspective. But I think all food banks are looking at that because whenever things shift, it impacts. And you're seeing a lot of shifts right now because of some of the government views and how things are being engaged with. So from every action comes a reaction. And to that, if it'll benefit the food banks, keep the stuff viable, and get it into the tummies and homes of people that need it, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, I love that. And Shara, you mentioned to me prior to the show, this is a really important year for you all at the Yuma Food Bank. Tell all our listeners what the big milestone is.
The food bank turns 40 this year, so the girl is ready to launch into the 21st century.
That's great.
We're going to have a warehouse gala. It's kind of a steampunk event, but we're going to have it in the warehouse. Celebrating our 40th, and we're really looking towards finding those individuals that started this. And it was handful of community leaders that saw the need and went out and found the food and went out and delivered the food. That was 40 years ago, and they did it without anything. So we want to recognize those individuals or find out a little bit more about them. So if you're listening to the podcast, reach out to us because we would love to connect with you.
Yeah, and I'm sure you guys will be sharing the stories about the last 40 years and how this region that obviously has, an abundant need for what you guys are doing, how this region has been served by people over the last 40 years and those who started it. It was a labor of love, no doubt. And
that's a good phrase, considering what we do here.
Yeah. So I'm assuming that you guys will be, documenting all that and sharing those stories on your Facebook page. I know I'll be looking out for them. So
we'll definitely connect with you because
good.
You've been part of this journey, and some of the gals that are helping me with the project with our 40th is Limelight Creative, which is
good.
So when you said labor of love, I was like,
yeah. They introduced us.
I know.
Yeah. No, that's great. So I would definitely love to help support you guys any way we can. And I hope this podcast is just the beginning of the way that we're able to support the good work that you're doing in Yuma. It's a very important region within our country, and really one that, in my opinion, from an agriculture scope, sometimes just gets overlooked, and people don't really realize how important Yuma is to our year-round food supply, especially in the winter months when the access, there's no backyard gardening in most regions of the U.S. In the winter months, and so it's a critical area for our vegetable producers and all consumers. Hey, if you like salad and you like eating salad in like November and December, you guys, you gotta have a little love in your heart for Yuma. Okay, so
definitely.
No,
absolutely. We have such we've talked about, the abundance of it, but I think the thing that needs to be touched on too is the food safety side of what we do as a food bank relative to the industry, because the Arizona Farm Bureau with Julie Humphreys, she has been a very key supporter of what we do here at the food bank, and we're all very much linked together to make sure that we're all following the protocols that are in place, and our growers do such an amazing job of food safety. Everything bounces off of something, but there's always improvement that comes from it. And once you've identified it, you can improve upon it. And I think that's where we see ourselves as well. We're looking at making sure that the food that comes out of our food bank is something that is
you're not only providing food security, you're doing it in a very food safe manner,
Exactly.
again, that kind of comes back to the culture of ag.
There's families.
Food safety is always number one. Every single farmer I know, you guys,
Yep.
And I've been to the Yuma region, I've experienced it firsthand. Food safety is everyone's number one goal. And there's, yes, no argument here on that one. I've seen it with my own eyes, and I just want to say, yes, you're spot on, Shara. But, all right. So we're closing in on our time, but we always let our guests have the last word. So you get to actually sign us off with whatever closing remarks you want. I will just have my closing remarks be a big hug to you and a big thank you for all the work you're doing. It's so important. I really had no idea, despite, having the opportunity to tour the food bank 4 years ago, spend time with you, tour the Yuma region. I honestly, until this podcast, didn't really understand the high volume of residents that you guys are serving out of the Yuma Food Bank. So thank you for sharing that and for all the work you're doing, and best of luck with this very important 40th anniversary year. I'm really looking forward to watching all the great work you guys are going to do in the year ahead.
Thank you so much. Well, it was an honor to be able to be on your program. This is my first podcast my first podcast, period. But to represent the Yuma Community Food Bank, I think just adds to that and our relationship that we have found with each other. The Yuma Community Food Bank is the largest food effort in Yuma County and in La Paz County. And we do serve La Paz as well. We do a limited engagement with them. So our primary focus has been in Yuma County the last year. But with that, all of our resources are limited. So what we gain from the relationships that we have with our producers produces millions of pounds that would have ordinarily gone into landfills, because if there's no other place for it, that's where it goes. And so this is giving it another life and to impact lives within our community, within the state, within the United States. So to that, I want to say thank you. And hopefully we get to do it again.
Yes, thank you. Work that matters right there, you guys. Have a great day, everyone. And Shara, thank you for being on the show.
You're welcome. Bye. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Produce Moms Podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a featured guest, just send an email to Lori@theproducemoms.com. We know there is a produce mom in you because there's a produce mom in all of us. Join our community on Facebook and all social platforms. Help us change the way America eats. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.